This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How we doing today on this Wednesday? Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I am running behind. It's been a crazy couple of days here on the Joe Gaither Show. We appreciate everybody who's jumped in and joined us today on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. You're watching us on the Bama Central YouTube channel or checking us out on your favorite podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on Amazon. The Joe Gaither Show, Bama Central. We're a proud part of the Alabama Crimson Tide on SI, covering all things Alabama, football, basketball, and more. You can find us on the social media machines at Joe Gaither 6. If you want to jump in and join us, we encourage you guys to also check out our friends, Derek Daniel State Farm right here in Northport, and our friends Purple Turtle Roofing, and our friends Druid City Music Hall, all the great Joe Gaither Show sponsors. We appreciate everybody putting us on, and we appreciate you guys for being patient with us because we know it's Wednesday, and we should have had a game recap for you on Monday. Just Monday got off the rails for me, and then Tuesday we were in Birmingham for SEC Media Days for basketball, so we will talk about that at a later date. Probably going to try to do 2 episodes here on Wednesday. Let's make today's episode all about South Carolina. Let's catch up. Let's do a little catch up. Let's put in the work all together now. We'll row the boat together. We'll get back on track as it is. Oh, one of the biggest weeks of the year, at least in my book. You guys know me. You know I'm from Chattanooga. You know a lot of my friends are Tennessee fans. This is a big week for me, but we cannot get ahead of ourselves. We cannot talk about the Tennessee Vols before we go backwards and talk about one of the ugliest, one of the weirdest, one of the strangest games I have seen in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Alabama beats South Carolina 27-25. We invite you guys to jump in and join us on the comment section to talk about your takeaways from the game. I know you're probably already moved on to Tennessee, so I appreciate everybody for bearing with us, putting this out late. But let's talk about the good, the bad, what went wrong, some things that made me pull my hair out, some things I think really were overblown as we get into this matchup with Tennessee. But before we do it, I do want to acknowledge and tell you that we are in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios right here in Northport. You can call Derek Daniel and his great team today, Red, Reese, and Victoria, at 205-758-3391 for all of your insurance needs. Call and see how much Derek can save you today. We appreciate Derek for putting us in the studios today. And let's talk about this game with South Carolina. So you won. Okay, all right, back up a little bit. You were basically going into the South Carolina game knowing that their pass rush was going to be proficient and knowing that their quarterback was going to be a little bit athletic and they were going to have a nice little run game with Rocket Sanders. But you were expecting, I was hoping for a big old bounce back performance. Alabama goes up to Vanderbilt, lays a big old fat egg, and then kind of sleepwalks through the game with South Carolina last week. Doesn't really give, I don't know about you, I don't want to speak for you, but doesn't really give me a whole lot of confidence going forward through the rest of the year. You're going up to play Tennessee this week, and that's going to be great. We'll talk about it. But the performance against South Carolina really left a lot to be desired. What, you got up 7-0, you got up 14-0, and then just some of the ugliest, some of the worst football I have ever seen in my life in the middle 8 there. Alabama just totally implodes going into the locker room and then let South Carolina really dictate the terms of the second half, coming out of the second half and converting 5 straight third downs, and then you knew you were in a ball game. And so you wonder what in the world is going on with this team. You wonder, is this team championship worthy? Is this team ready to compete with the best in the country? And you saw them beat Georgia, and you thought, okay, where was the team that got up 30-7 on the Georgia Bulldogs? Where's that team gone over the last 4, 8, 6, 10 quarters, right? 2.5 games, 10 quarters. Where did that team go? Now, a little bit of it, you got to give South Carolina a lot of credit. Their defensive line and their defensive plan was very, very aggressive and was very proficient. But Alabama really shot themselves in the foot in a lot of ways. I mean, let's just take this into the half sequence. You're up 14-0. You've got South Carolina down on 4th and 9 from the 36-yard line. And what happens? You get a little out and up, a little kind of modified wheel route. Malachi Moore has his eyes in the back, has his eyes on the post route, and has his eyes in the backfield, gets lost, and the wheel route goes wide open. Lenore Sellers throws a big 36-yard touchdown pass. It's 7-14. And you're thinking, okay, that hurt. It was 4th and 9. They were going, desperation mode. But then you're fine. Everything's going to be fine. You turn around, you get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on the kickoff return. Brayson Hubbard, what are you doing? You get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Next 2 plays, you end up with a safety in the end zone. So now it's 14-9, and you're thinking, oh, this has gotten real bad. So now you're punting, the free kick away. And granted, this all happened in the last, 2 minutes of the half. This is some of the worst football you ever seen in your life. You get the defensive stop after the free kick. Fine, great. 14-9, you're backed up in your own end. You're thinking, okay, this is fine. You get a decent play. And you let the clock run down. Let the clock run down to 10 seconds, and you call timeout. And I'm just thinking to myself, what are you doing here? You're at what, the 35 or so? You are not even to midfield yet. You called timeout. I know Jalen Milroe has a huge arm. I know it. He can fire that thing down there. But instead of Hail Marying it, or instead of doing some sort of modified screen, trying to get one of these wide receivers into open space, no, Jalen Milroe throws one of the worst out routes in the world, and it gets picked off, and you're lucky it doesn't go all the way back for an interception, for a touchdown. But instead, the South Carolina defender steps out of bounds, luckily with 1 second left. Okay, you get the extra field goal, and you go from 14 to nothing lead to 14-12 lead at halftime. And it's just a total implosion. And so the game left a lot to be desired. You gave South Carolina 374 yards, so the defensive performance was once again not good. You gave up the 5 straight third downs on the opening drive of the third quarter. It really ended up giving up 7 out of 10 of your last third down conversions in the second half. 70% in the second half. Now, you started 0-5, but you let them go 70% in the second half. So it was just terrible. And really, to me, in the stadium, and I'll let you guys obviously jump in and give me your take if you want to in the comments section. But in the stadium, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, it just doesn't look like Alabama has a killer mentality. It just doesn't look like Alabama has the go for the throat, step on the jugular. We're going to impose our will. Why are you even showing up in Bryant-Denny Stadium today? Kind of attitude. Now, a lot of that is to do with NIL, and a lot of that is to do with transition. A lot of that is to do with transfer portal, and you have parity in college football now, which, goodness gracious, has made a lot of fun from the media perspective, because now you don't know what's going to happen week in and week out. All these new parts, all these new pieces, and all these new teams has finally trickled out from the big 4 or 5 programs, and the recruiting at the high school level has spread out so much that really, any team can compete with anybody any week if you don't bring your A game. South Carolina, they got themselves a transfer portal defensive end, Kyle Kennard. They got themselves 5-star Dylan Stewart defensive end, and then they ended up already having Donka Hemingway, big old defensive lineman, and they gave Alabama's offensive line a lot of hell. How many sacks did it end up having? Sack adjusted yardage right there. Defense right there. How about that? South Carolina getting into the backfield for 4 different sacks and getting officially just 1 quarterback hurry, but it felt like a lot more than that. I don't know that the Alabama offensive line had a bad day, but it just from a coaching standpoint, left a lot to be desired. South Carolina getting a lot of pressures, getting a lot of sacks, bringing a lot of games, and just wasn't doing, in my opinion, a whole lot up front to help the guys as far as extra guys, chipping blockers, chipping tight ends, just not doing a whole lot. And Proctor had himself a fine day against a really big challenge, and Elijah Pritchett had himself a fine day against a really big challenge, but it just wasn't really a dominant performance. And it just kind of seemed like once Alabama got up 14-0, a lot like the South Carolina game, the Arkansas game last year in Bryant-Denny Stadium, which I believe was an 11 a.m. game as well. Alabama got up big against Arkansas and just kind of held on late. And Arkansas also had a really nasty pass rush that year. Landon Jackson, I think, had himself 3 or 4 sacks that year. Really told Caden Proctor, welcome to the SEC. So it kind of reminded me of that. You got up 14-0. Now, in that Arkansas game, I think you were up 24-0, 21-0. I think you were up even bigger before you let your foot off the gas. But it just left a lot to be desired from a coaching standpoint, as far as the middle eight, the management of the game, and then from a killer instinct standpoint, of we're up, we want to set the tone, we want to let everybody know that this Vanderbilt game was not a fluke. But no, they didn't do that. Now, South Carolina gets a lot of credit because of the way that they fought and because of the way that they attacked Alabama. And I think that really you go into the third downs, especially in the second half, South Carolina really did a better job getting into third and manageable situations, particularly on the opening drive of the second half. They ended up getting, 5 third downs in a row, and they were all 3rd and 5, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1. And look, I know you're upset about Alabama's defensive effort on third down, but when you're in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, I mean, it's advantage offense every single time. I know that 5 in a row is really unacceptable, but it is advantage offense. And so you got to do a better job on first down. You got to do a better job on first down getting into the 3rd and long situations, because when Alabama did get into 3rd and 6 or longer, well, South Carolina only converted 1 of those the entire day. And so it basically comes down to playing more consistent defense down in and down out. And my biggest thing with the defense is it's just going to take some time. You're just going to have to continue to be patient. And I know that Alabama fans don't want to hear that. I know that Alabama fans don't want to hear be patient. It's coming. Because you won. I mean, you got the expectations of championship aspirations. Absolutely. And you should, because that's what the program has been. That's what the program is my entire lifetime and beyond. But you just are missing something on the defensive end, and I think it's an experience factor. I think it's an experience level. I think it's comfort in the system. Let's go back to the 4th and 9. Malachi Moore busts, right? Malachi Moore is got his eyes on the quarterback, and you know the quarterback kind of giving him a little look at the post route. He missed. Look, you're in cover 2, and you've probably seen a bunch of analysts already talk about this week. But you're in cover 2, and you should be. Look, Justin Jefferson's coming underneath the post. You should be seeing Keon Sabb saying, "Baby, this thing's coming right at me. I'm playing over the top." But Malachi gets his eyes in the backfield, and Malachi is a little lost. And I think that yes, Malachi was trying to cover a little bit. He sees Jefferson pause, and so he says, okay, I've got to go cover that sin. And Malachi gets lost in the sauce and loses himself on the wheel route. Boom, you got a touchdown. What ends up happening, Malachi is, in the old Coach Saban defense and match coverage, I believe that Malachi would have been responsible for the post. And I believe that Zay Mincy would have been responsible for recognizing the wheel and carrying the wheel. Now, that's not the responsibilities are in the current defense. That's what the responsibilities were for Malachi for the last 4 years. For the last 4 years, and how many hundreds and thousands of reps? Not thousands, well, maybe thousands over 4 years. How many reps has he been carrying the post in this defense? And it's just growing pains. Now, look, you see the bus and you think, oh, my gosh, that's unacceptable. Zay Mincy, why are you letting that guy get over your head? But it really wasn't Zay's fault. It's just part of the transition to the new coaching staff, part of the transition to the new scheme. Now, and look, it's not fun. It's not fun. Some really gross football happening, but I think that you're seeing players unlearn habits in real time and learn new habits in real time. And I think you're seeing how difficult that is to do in real time, particularly against SEC competition. You're not playing Mercer every week now. You're not playing you're not playing Western Kentucky every week now. I think that really it's just going to be a work in progress the rest of the year, defensively. I think that you've got to look at the Alabama defense, and you've got to understand that you may not have the defensive talent that you have had in the past. I mean, think about how many guys hit the transfer portal after Coach Saban retired, but you also look at the guys and you look at the draft board. Is Deontay Lawson a first-round pick? No, we're not drafting inside linebackers in the first round anymore. Is Tim Keenan a first-round draft pick? Doubtful. No. Is Tim Smith? No. Jamarian Latham? No. I mean, you're looking at you're a little bit devoid of the previous talent that you have had on a lot of these Nick Saban defenses. Now, I think Jihad Campbell is a headhunter. I think he's an athletic specimen. Is Jihad Campbell committed to playing to lay in the wood every single time? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this team is committed to the gritty as much as it needs to be. And you can blame that on Coach Boer. You can blame that on the transition. You can blame that on turnover. But that's the area that I think this team is really lacking, and you see it on the defensive side of the football particularly, and you see it really on the offensive side of the football when it comes to running the ball and the lack of a traditional running game. You look at Alabama's running game this past weekend against South Carolina, and it was just not really that good. I mean, yeah, you put up 104 yards rushing. Okay, great sack adjusted rushing, right? Is that what I have? So 104 sack adjusted yards rushing is 127. 127 sack adjusted. Yeah. So with the sacks, you lost, 23 yards. You lost 23 yards with the 4 sacks. So you put up 127 yards, and you look at who got the yards. I mean, Jam Miller gets himself 41, Jalen with 36, and Justice Haynes 26. None of these guys are doing what you expected them, doing what you expected out of them going into the preseason. I was expecting Jam and Justice to, go 80 apiece or so. Be really physical, be a really pivotal part, a really premier part of this Alabama offense. Right now, you've got Jam, who's really an effective weapon, and Jam has popped a handful of big runs. Obviously, his 43 yards this past week was the high, led the group, but it's not enough. It's not enough, and you're not getting this downhill, we're going to move you out of the hole, we're going to run in between the tackles, we're going to ISO, come right at your inside linebacker. We're going to power, go right off the tackle's rear end. We're going to kick you out of the hole. There's not a whole lot of that. And I wonder if it's a power standpoint, if it's a strength and conditioning standpoint, if it's just a general attitude problem. But those are my biggest concerns about this Alabama team is really struggling from a physicality standpoint. We talked about it after the Vanderbilt game that Alabama really struggled to tackle. They didn't struggle as much, in my opinion. It's still a little bit in that area. A couple of times LT Overton almost had himself a sack. Oh my gosh, LT Overton so close to so many sacks. I just think that you've got a little bit of a, I don't know, just a lack of embracing. Look, football's hard. Football's supposed to be hard. Football's supposed to be physical. And I know we have softened the game over the last 10 years, and a lot of that I am in support of, a lot of it. You don't want to have guys walking around with permanent disabilities, brain injuries, this, that, the other. Absolutely not. But at its core, at the bottom line, at the end of the day, football is about low man wins. Football is about physicality. Football is about imposing your will on the other team. I know you can get those cutesy plays where guys are wide open, and I love them. And I think that, wow, look at offensive coordinator genius. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to winning the line of scrimmage. I'm not really that sold on Alabama's ability to do that. I'm not really sold on Alabama's ability to do that on the offensive or the defensive side of the ball. We walked into the year thinking that Alabama's offensive line, the 3 guys, Parker Brailsford, Tyler Booker, and Jaden Roberts. I mean, you walked into the year thinking that's the best interior offensive line in football, in college football, and it probably still is. But why haven't you? I mean, whether it's Jaden Roberts dealing with nagging injuries, I know that is a factor. I know that he's dealing with nagging injuries. So you've seen Geno Vandermark come in time to time, whether it's integration or commitment for Elijah Pritchett of really getting physical. I don't know what it is. Why the team? Because look, when I'm up against them, when I'm interviewing these guys, they're huge. They're mammoths. They're monsters, and they're all saying the right things. They're all talking the right things. They're all we're committed to getting the standard. We're committed to this, that, and the other. But there's just something that feels like it's missing, and to me, I wonder if that something can be defined in the space of translation, in the space of lack of experience in the system, in the space of maybe we're not as confident in what we're doing because we don't know it as well. I mean, look, You were running the Coach Saban system, Malachi Moore, for 4 years. You were absolutely confident in your responsibilities in that system. And was he playing fast on that 4th and 9? Absolutely. He was all over the post. If Norris Sellers wanted to squeeze that in, it would have been between Malachi, Justin Shepard, and Keon Sapp. It would have been a miraculous throw. So Malachi was operating. I mean, everybody's still, I think, going full speed, but I think there's just a little bit of trepidation, a little bit of, wait, what am I doing? Wait, what's my job here? I think there's just a little bit of that still going on, and that concerns me at 6 weeks into the season. That concerns me for the future of the year. Now, let's continue on this train talking about the South Carolina win. Alabama beat South Carolina 27-25, and we're hanging out on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, your home for the Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. We appreciate everybody who's watching us on the Bama Central YouTube channel, on my own social media machines, Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. As we're continuing on the show, we want to tell you about our friends, Purple Turtle Roofing. They're the most reliable residential roof replacement company in Alabama and Mississippi. Purple Turtle Roofing, whether it's addressing leaks, storm damage, or general wear and tear, Purple Turtle Roofing is going to be there to deliver exceptional roof repair for your property. Purple Turtle Roofing is the leading expert in local residential roofing solutions, specializing in providing unparalleled service and quality craftsmanship for all your roof replacement needs. Call Dustin Foley and his team today at 877-PT-ROOF-5 for your free roof inspection. That's 877-787-6635 to schedule your appointment, and one of the qualified employees will come check out your roof for free and make sure you're prepared for any and all of life's storms. Check them out online today at roofturtle.com. And once again, as we continue on the Joe Gaither Show, we're live here in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios. Call Derek Daniel today at 205-758-3391. Call and see how much Derek can save you today. All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep rocking on the program today. We have talked about the middle eight a little bit. The end of game sequence. Oh, man, just another instance of just terrible football management. Okay, you're at 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, something in that range, right at the 40-yard line, 36, 35, and I'm on the sidelines right there. And I've got it on my Twitter. I tweeted the clip, the touchdown pass to Jeremy Bernard, and in my tweet, I think I put in there something like, "Oh, it looks like Alabama's going to win the game." And people rightfully point out that if Jeremy Bernard had fallen, South Carolina's out of timeouts. If Jeremy Bernard had fallen at the goal line, Alabama could have kneed the game out, and everybody would have, left Bryant-Denny Stadium without the heart attack that they eventually ended up having. Jeremy scores, and look at the play again. Go watch the play again. Jeremy is catching this ball over his shoulder at the 6, the 5, right? He's going into the end zone, and it's all he can do to keep his feet. Let's just be honest. It's all he can do to keep his feet. And I think it was, as a college player, especially in this offense right now with where you are, I don't want to say sporadic, but it does feel a little sporadic. You're getting in the end zone every single time. You're getting in the end zone for your own draft perspective. That's a place where you're going to be selfish. And especially if you're off balance. If you're off balance and you're just trying to make it, like he was, in my opinion, just trying to come down with the ball. And so he comes down with the ball, and then you go back out there, and what ends up happening? Oh, gosh, just a wild play. Let me pull up my drive so I can just make sure I don't say the wrong thing. You get the Jeremy Bernard touchdown, right? Right there, 67, 154. And then, absolutely absurd. South Carolina gets the ball back. They go 6 plays, 75 yards, and a touchdown in 1 minute and 11 seconds. Just wild stuff. Wildly incompetent, end of game situationally speaking. And so you just got to be better at these end of halves, end of games, and then you come back out. Okay, they scored. They scored to make it a 25-27. Okay. Go recover the onside kick and sit on the ball and knee it out. Finish the game. But no, you allow Oh, perfect. Yeah, sorry, looking at an email. You allow South Carolina to drop kick to drop kick onside. Which, first off, credit to the South Carolina kicker. Beautiful kick, and South Carolina goes and has a car crash right there at midfield, and they get the ball out. Just absurdly stupid end of game situationally speaking. And okay, I understand the ball bounces funny ways, this, that, and the other, but you just got to fall on the ball, Alabama. You just got to fall on the ball. Like I don't even care about Jeremy Bernard, really. Jeremy Bernard scoring. I know a lot of people said, "Oh, you should have fallen so they can knee it out." This, that, and the other. I don't even. That doesn't bother me. What bothers me is letting South Carolina go down the field in a minute and 11, and then giving up the onside kick. Just terrible attention to detail. Terrible killer instinct. Awful. And then, just kind of on the flip side, it all goes the other way at the on the very last play. Damani Jackson really makes himself a good play. Kane Womack dials up a blitz. He saw what? Not engage 8. It was 7 guys. 7 guys ended up 7 or 8 guys ended up in the blitz package, and Lenore Sellers just tosses it up, and Damani catches it. And you got this other talking point. Damani catches it on the 3-yard line and goes into the end zone like. Momentum carries him into the end zone. You can argue it or what. And I think that you have an argument that he does go into the end zone voluntarily. The official drops the beanbag at the 1-yard line. So the official probably, at least real time, thought that he went into the end zone voluntarily. If you kneel that out, oh my gosh, you think about the worst safety you think about one of the worst plays in Alabama history. If he takes a knee and it's ruled a safety. Now, people are rightfully saying that the momentum rule would be applied and Alabama would have gotten the ball at 25. Obviously, the time clock runs out. But how much faith do you have in the SEC officials? Do you have the faith in the SEC officials that they would have ironed it out? Or look, I think there would have been a good chance that you're playing overtime. Just from the mistake, and I think we're all right. We would all have been writing about the official's mistake to rule the safety, right? Just crazy end of game scenarios for Alabama, and you just got to be better from a coaching standpoint. You got to do a better job communicating time and communicating scenario to your team. Just another way, another aspect. It just give me a whole lot of confidence for this Alabama team going forward. All right, so I think that my last note here, third down defense. Ooh, you want to talk about third down defense? Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about third down defense, as it was a huge talking point after the Vanderbilt game, and we talked about it a little bit. Obviously, Alabama gave up 7 of 15. On third down. So that's 46%, I think is what it was. Right at almost 50%. And that's not good enough. But all the complaints that you had last week about, Coach Wong is running man free, running cover one robber, or man free, that and the other, didn't really do that on Saturday against South Carolina. I mean, yes, there was a couple cover one robber looks. And if you don't know what I mean, you are man-to-man all underneath. You got one safety basically playing free safety, and then either a linebacker or the other safety will play kind of a hook zone in the middle, mirroring the quarterback, trying to catch crossers, essentially. Alabama ended up, I went back on all 15 third down plays. Alabama ended up with 2 times they ran cover one robber. They ended up running a lot of zone looks, where you're running cover 3, cover 2, a lot of cover 2, a lot of cover 3, a lot of cover 2, a little bit of cover 4, and some mixtures. But you also brought a lot of pressures. I counted on the 15 third downs no more than twice, right? So you ran cover 1 twice. You ran, I think looked like cover 2 about twice. You ran an inside linebacker blitz twice. You really did an engage 7, engage 8. All these looks are getting mixed up, right? And so for everybody who complained about Kane Womack last week, he did mix up the looks on third down. He did make it difficult for South Carolina to get after you on third down, at least from a planning standpoint. They didn't get the same looks every single third down. It just becomes an issue about tackling. It just becomes an issue about down and distance. Really, that's all it comes down to. Because when Alabama was in 3rd and 5 or less, South Carolina was converting. Pretty much automatic. When South Carolina was in 3rd and 6 or more, Alabama was getting off the field. Pretty much automatically. Now, there was an outlier or two in there, but pretty much it just comes down to getting the other team into long yardage situations so that you can dial up the pressure, so that you can dictate to them what the scenario is. And so I do want to take a pause as we're reviewing the South Carolina game and give Kane Womack, a nice little thumbs up. While you do have a lot of these defensive issues, I think that Kane Womack learned from his mistakes against the Vanderbilt game. And I wouldn't even call them mistakes. I know you guys can debate that all you want to in the comment section. But Alabama had the chances against South Carolina and Vanderbilt. Had chances against Vanderbilt and South Carolina to make plays. Kane Womack's scheme and Kane Womack's plan put his players in position to make plays. Vanderbilt just made more plays. 2 weeks ago, South Carolina ended up a couple of plays short this past weekend in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Now, let's wrap up this recap show by telling you once again about Derek Daniel and his friends right here at State Farm. You can find all your home, life, and insurance needs right here just off McFarland Boulevard. Call today at 205-758-3391. Call Derek and see how much Derek can save you today. But let's finish up by talking about the rest of the year. Because I'm walking out of Bryant-Denny Stadium, and I look at Hunter DeCiver, and I said the exact same thing that I said to him leaving Wisconsin. I said, Tennessee's going to score 1 million bleeping points against this team. 1 million points. And then later on in the evening, I'm watching the Florida Gators make Tennessee's offense look pedestrian again. And we'll talk about Tennessee here tomorrow and the future, the rest of the episodes this week. But all this to say, Tennessee went on to look bad. They lost. They won. Struggle win. It's a struggle win for Tennessee over a bad Florida team at home against a true freshman quarterback. So Tennessee's got the problems. They got some real big issues. Got a big old defensive injury today confirmed, so they got some issues. LSU, they struggled against the Ole Miss. They ended up winning, but they struggled against Ole Miss. So that was a struggle win if that it wasn't anything. Oklahoma, they got their doors blown off against Texas. Texas took them behind the woodshed and beat them senseless, really, in that rivalry game. Auburn was off, but they've been bad, right? And they're going to go play Missouri this weekend, and we'll kind of get a little more picture on Auburn. But Missouri, they were playing UMass, and they didn't look that good. Missouri's looked questionable all year long. So you look at Alabama's schedule, and you say, okay, you're kind of in this kind of weird spot right now. Is Alabama good? Are they improving? What's really the state of this team? And, yeah, you're looking at Alabama under the microscope, and you think, oh, they got some problems. You got some issues right now. You got some probably, this team has some things to work out. But then you look at their schedule, and you think, well, Tennessee's struggling, LSU struggling, Oklahoma struggling, Auburn struggling, Missouri struggling. Mercer shouldn't even be on the field with you. So the rest of the Alabama, you have time to work it out. You have opportunities to work it out. You think about, leaving the Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday feeling so disgusted. And I know if you left First Bank Stadium 2 Saturdays ago feeling ultra disgusted about where this team was, to a degree, you're right to feel that way. To a degree, I think that you're not overboard feeling upset about this Alabama season so far. But I would offer you a little glimmer of hope. I would offer you a little glimmer of a future, because every other team on Alabama's schedule is also really not where they thought they were going to be walking into the year. So you got everything still in front of you. You didn't look good against South Carolina. I think that Jalen Milroe was feeling a little bit of the pressure to it all, because at this point with the Alabama offense, it's been Jalen or nothing. It's been Jalen find Ryan Williams to save us, or Jalen run it in yourself to save it. And obviously, you've had some other elements at play. But as far as a consistent factor, it's been Jalen or nothing else. And I think he struggled. I think some of that pressure maybe started to build up a little bit on Saturday, and maybe it has started to build up. If you can find a running game, if you can get Kendrick Law and Kobe Prentice back healthy, and you can continue to disperse the ball from a passing game standpoint, and look, if you can just continue to hone in, hang in there defensively, hang in there, get the stops, create the havoc plays, create the turnovers, then you're still going to be in all these games. and you're going to have a chance to be there in the end. None of these teams that are on your schedule, I mean, yeah, you look at Tennessee's offense before their slump, and you thought, oh, that's scary. But now they've gone on their slump. Everything is at play, and all these games are winnable. So we'll continue to talk about it right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. We once again want to apologize, deeply apologize to you, the listener, because of our tardiness for this show. We had a little bit of a hang up, a little bit of hiccups right at the beginning of the week, but we are trying to get back on track with our recap show. What we want to do next is talk about SEC Media Days, basketball, just a little bit. We want to talk about football some more. We're going to break down Tennessee, everything we have been noticing about Tennessee on film over the last couple of days. We want to talk about homecoming, because homecoming was announced as an either or. I mean, the SEC, look at this. This is what, week number 9. The SEC has selected 3 different teams for 3 different time slots, and so you don't really know when Alabama is going to be playing Missouri. If I can get my sheet to pull up here. Yeah, Alabama, Missouri is supposed to be either at 2:30, at 3:15. Where's my sheet? SEC, perfect, right there. Is either going to be at 2:30, 4:30, or 6, or between the 6 and 8 o'clock window. And they're all deciding with who else? With LSU, Texas A&M. So they're going to and let's see, there's one more. There was a third, right? Texas and Vanderbilt was the other kind of offshoot. So they're going to probably put Texas and Vanderbilt at 2:30. They're probably going to want LSU and Texas A&M in that nightcap slot, and Alabama, Missouri in that 4:30 slot. Just depends on this weekend's game result. Obviously, LSU and Texas A&M have to win to keep that matchup juicy. Texas A&M with Mississippi State and LSU with Arkansas. I think that's going to kind of be your what to watch for. If Texas A&M is able to beat Mississippi State and LSU is able to beat Arkansas, I think you should lock that into either the 2:30 slot or the evening slot. And then you can lock in Texas into the other, because Texas is playing Georgia. If Texas beats Georgia, then they're going to be a hot commodity. And then we'll have Alabama and Missouri filling in that third spot, which I think will probably be that 4-something slot. That's Eastern time. Goodness gracious, I like Central time. Because we live in God's time zone. Central time zone right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So yeah, you got weird time zones with homecoming. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Tennessee some more, about SEC Media Days as we keep going this week on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. Big thanks to Jewett City Music Hall for sponsoring the program. Derek Daniel at State Farm right here in Northport, and Purple Turtle Roofing, your #1 most reliable residential roofing replacement company right here in Alabama and Mississippi. Purple Turtle Roofing. We'll get out of here for the day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.